So Alex, this is these four poems that I selected of yours are all from your latest collection, which is called.
Yeah, it's called Letters from the Periphery, and it came out in 2021. And they are four very different poems. The first one, Plato, is actually section 7 from a cycle, the title poem, which is a cycle, I think 17 poems, which is called Letters from the Periphery.
And it's written in your patented form, namely the sonatina, right?
No, not that one.
Not that one?
No, that's written in a variety. It's mostly in free verse. There's a little bit of rhyme here and there.
Okay.
But it's a cycle that is involved with the notion of a stalker, a mysterious stalker. It's a kind of a correspondence, a one-way correspondence from, or messages from
the beyond.
The apparent stalker to the apparent victim,
right?
As it were. The second poem, The Dream, which is my translation of the Borges poem, El Sueño.
That's a sonnet.
That is a sonnet, and I discovered that in a book of sonnets by Borges, and they were all translated by different people, and I looked at the translation of several of them. I translated 3 of them. This is the one that appeared in Letters from the Periphery. I kind of wasn't so happy with the translation, so I did my own.
Exactly. You and I are on that same wavelength. You know, we get these beautiful books of poetry, and we look at the translation and say, "Oh, I could do better than that," and I did, and you did, and that's one of the things that brought us together. But the main thing that brought us together was that you invented the term sonatina, a 10-line sonnet, and noticed that I had been setting sonnets to music and calling them sonatinas starting way back in 1966. And then you sent me 100 of them, and also dozens of poems by at least a dozen Australian poets. And then Helene sang the cycle that I made from them, and you hosted us in Melbourne. It was one of the great moments of our life.
It was for us too. And let me mention, when I thought I had coined the term sonatina, and then I happened to Google it, to my dismay, I saw that it had been used by some New York composer. A relief. I emailed you, but I discovered that it was a different sense of the word. You were setting sonnets, and I was writing miniature sonnets.
Right.
You were setting music.
But in the meantime, I've set many sonnets and also some of your sonatinas to music.
You have indeed.
Yes. So anyway, this cycle is 4 poems. You mentioned the first 2.
Okay.
And the third one is one of the most moving poems I have ever read in my life. And it took a little while for me to persuade you to let me set it to music because I know it's so personal. But I know that you don't regret having let me do it. And in fact, Joel Mandelbaum was praising that piece to this guy. He says the next concert he does, he wants to put that piece on. And explain the third song, the third poem.
Okay. Well, my mother was my father's second wife. His first wife died in Auschwitz with their infant 18-year-old.
18 months.
18-month-old baby, yeah. And my father only found out that they had perished after the war. Now, I wrote this poem as a kind of a tribute in memory of that half-brother whose name was Alexander, spelled in the Polish way, and I'm named after him. And I wanted to imagine having a dialogue with him, speaking to, and that's what the poem really. I wrote it in 2012 when he would have been around about 70 years old. My father lived to 100.
Did
In
he?
fact, he died at 13. So I got the chance to read this poem to him.
Oh, wow.
He was blind by that time. He couldn't read, but his mind was 100%. And I read that poem to him. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that, and he was moved by it.
He was a wonderful man. We met him when we were in Melbourne.
You did.
We
you
performed for him. It was really something. So, and I want to say that the fourth poem is a kind of a coming down from the emotion of the third poem. That's why I chose it that way. And it was modeled after, Geza, we're doing 2 cycles of 4 poems today. There's a gorgeous song cycle that Jean Singer wrote. She was a pianist, a pupil of Nadia Reisenberg, a wonderful pianist, and she became a composer when her husband died. And she was sitting at the piano improvising something, and she wrote this incredible lament for him, and then decided to construct a 4-song cycle around it. And the 4th song was also a kind of a coming down, as is this one. It kind of reminiscent of what's the Brahms piece, Wie Melodien. Yeah, and it's that's sort of quoted in my piece too. You can hear a little bit of that because it's an homage. I mean, Jean Singer was very beloved as a pianist and musician and a composer, but she never excelled what she wrote in that first song cycle. It's one of the most gorgeous song cycles we know, and we have 2 that today that are indebted to that form and thinking about her. And of course, also, we're thinking about your father, Alex, and my father, and this is Father's Day, so it's appropriate that we do this. Okay? So.
Well, if you like parallels, I noticed that Geza came from Hungary in 1956.
Yes.
We are contemporaries, and I left Poland in 1956 under circumstances not completely dissimilar. Revolution.
But you went to Israel and then Melbourne.
Yeah.
For about a year and a bit.
Geza, where did you go when you
We
left?
went to Canada, and then
Toronto?
Toronto, yes.
And you're actually a Canadian citizen
Yes,
now?
I'm a Canadian Hungarian citizen.
Canadian Hungarian.
Green card holder.
But you
It was also-
but you live in Vermont or in
Vermont.
California or in Paris?
We live in Vermont most of the time, but then we also have an apartment in San Francisco where we have
San
a
Francisco.
daughter and 2 grandsons.
And you also in Paris sometimes, no?
We lived in Bordeaux for 4
Bordeaux,
years,
that's right.
and in Vienna for 5 years.
Vienna, oh boy.
We went back and lived in
Talk about cosmopolitan. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Uruguay for 2 years. And
That's great. Well,
It was also good
go ahead,
for
Alex.
me to. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to add that it was lovely to hear Rosie Calabrese's poem.
Yeah.
Because I met her. She came out to Melbourne.
Really?
You, Leonard. She looked us up, and we had her at our home one afternoon.
I never knew that. Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were we the contact? Did she ask us to?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for goodness sake. She never told us that she'd met with you. That's amazing. Everything comes full circle. Okay. Well, that's delightful. So let's hear the Skovron cycle. We've recorded this, but this is going to be the first live performance.